Mike Burgess, hello.
Hello, Alex.
We're back in the FBC, my
The
favorite place to
Federal
be.
Bureau of Control.
Yes,
We're
ready
here.
to take control, as some have been known to do.
Taking control of this downloadable content.
I know, I'm so excited to be back. It's the best. This place is the best.
Yes. They finally did the thing.
Here, we're in it. He's
Look,
here.
there he is. We're right in it, folks.
He's
You
here.
know. He's there. He's writing on that typewriter. Faden sensed him.
There's the page.
There it is.
Investigation sector, huh?
Okay, this is what we're here to discuss, y'all.
Yeah, we're taking a look. The second DLC for Control came out.
Yes,
AWE.
and it's pretty good.
Yeah, so for reference, we have both already completed it on different systems. Right now, Alex is playing on PS4, so he can show off. We're going to show off this kind of first introductory mission, and sort of talk over it a little bit, sort of not. I don't know how much we want to get into spoiler talk. Maybe not. Probably maybe a little bit further in.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to let that one scene that's going to come up play out. We're just going to let that... Yeah. Just because it's so good. It's so weird and powerful. And just kind of like let that hang. And I'm going to sit back and watch it again because I've only seen it the one time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk through some of it. Obviously, I try not to spoil too much of later on. But if you're like, I would say like a clandestine Alan Wake fan that didn't maybe play Control and you've heard about AWE and you're like, I hope this is actually cool and not shitty, you can see this and like be like, okay, cool.
And that's what I would say too. Is like, I feel like at least I guess from our circles that we know of, like, I haven't seen somebody that liked Alan Wake, that doesn't like Control or would be have any kind of interest in Control, especially now that literally with this DLC, like they're kind of bridging the worlds in a way.
Yeah.
And they very much directly do that in this DLC. We won't get into details of how they do it, but you'll see a little bit of that here. So that's pretty cool, and I think they did a good job of it. And I'll also say, like, Control's still totally worth playing.
Yeah.
I think it's an awesome game.
It's a phenomenal game. I would say it's one of my... It could be a top 10 favorite game of all time for me at this point.
Yeah, it would definitely be high up on my list, too. And I also say, like, this DLC is relatively short, I would say. Like, in the grand scheme of things, which, like, not in a bad way, but there's still plenty of stuff to do if you liked base Control, like all that kind of stuff's there. There's a new story mission, and we got little side things to go find and go on side quests that are not necessarily even related, that are kind of cool and fun.
Yeah. And I think the first DLC is pretty chunky. So I think you're going to get just the best of both worlds with it. So I just want to pull up that little call we just got. But also, I don't know if you know, I feel like this message from the board was also dumped in here with this DLC. I don't know if you had seen it. I know it kind of just blends in with the other ones. But it feels like it's at the end of Foundation.
Yeah, I think this was.
But it calls out Emily Pope specifically, which I thought was cool. And then it says the next chapter, it's also kind of leading up to. But then it says Jesse Dillon Faden, which is really eerie and creepy.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember seeing at the end of Foundation, so I just wanted to shout that out as well.
Yeah, it's hard to say too, because going into this DLC, I basically replayed base Control, and then went back and then played Foundation through the first time, and then jumped right into this. So I kind of played it all in one big playthrough, more or less. So yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah. But this is that first. Oh God, the first time I watched this, I got chills.
Yeah, they did that so smartly. Like I was trying, that was definitely the whole thing I was thinking of like leading up to this DLC and then like starting to play through it. I was like, how are they just gonna like incorporate him? And like the way they do it through the visions you get that you were already getting all throughout all of base control. I was like, okay, yep.
And
that was perfect.
It like Alan fits perfectly into the rules of like getting hotline calls. He has to be from another dimension, right?
Yeah.
And it comes through. So yeah, and it's like him. It's manuscript pages from Alan Wake. He's like writing her thoughts. It's those great. My favorite pages in that game were the ones where you're like self-reflective Alan. We get to hear his inner monologue and stuff, and we get just that for Jesse right away. Sets the tone. You feel like right at home. it's so good. It's so good. But yeah, let's go to the investigation sector.
The investigation sector. I will say like one minor gripe is like I think this area compared to some of the other areas is like a lot more like just like confusing to get around. Sure. And I think that's intentional. Like right, like obviously all of it's weird and creepy, but I think this one more so for me. There were like definitely times where I was like, where in the world am I even going? And, like there's like multiple levels to a lot of the different areas, and
I got lost in it only a little bit in the same way I got lost in the containment sector that has a very similar out like setup as this.
Right.
So it made sense that I got lost in it to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't have too much trouble, but also like I've played so much of this game recently.
Yeah.
It was no wonder that I was fine. So I don't know, there's so many great notes in this one.
Yeah, like this first area has like a million.
But this note was one of my favorites. I don't know, I'm sure you went through it, but this one about like, hey, some FBI agent is looking into the disappearance of Alan Wake. His name is Alex Casey. Did you know that Alan Wake wrote this guy into existence?
Yeah, it was very good.
And it's just like the potential Alex Casey video game just popped into my head, and it's like, oh yeah, they're just setting themselves up to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, have their own weird Alex Casey detective game.
Yeah, and you could totally see them doing a kind of Max Payne style game again, just with Alex Casey and fit it into this universe, right?
Yep.
It would be very cool.
Not to get too far ahead, but like that's there's like not directly, but like you said, with this DLC they kind of leave it open to go anywhere, and kind of continue this like world they're building. And like I think like you said, having it be like some Alex Casey game, like in a way, as much as I love Jesse and I love playing as Alan Wake, I would love like to have that like a completely different character, like just kind of like wrapped up in this and like have no idea. Kind of have those moments where you're just kind of like, you're hearing about this weird supernatural stuff going on. Are you here? I can just envision that video game where you're like walking around doing stuff somewhat similar, but you're like, finding notes about like the board or something that like alludes to them or alludes to like what Jesse's been doing in the time that's like past or something like that. Like,
and
really cool.
they kind of lean into that at the end of this too, which I appreciate. And I'm excited to see if they don't make this about any one character and kind of like give it to us from multiple perspectives.
Right.
I just wonder, as like a player, who do you want to invest in? But I don't know. Maybe they want to build it towards something. Now, what I do want to do real quick, we're going to go ahead and just reset this. I'm not going to go through and unlock all of these, but I want to unlock this.
Try the new thing.
The multi.
Yeah, I didn't try this either.
Oh man, you didn't? So I did on my Xbox version. Game changer.
Yeah, I kind of figured. I feel like as much as I use a lot of launch, like pretty much all of my mods are centered around it.
Yeah, and some of the new mods in the first DLC really lend themselves to launch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to do one more tree after this, I promise. It just takes a little while. But the thing about this, and if you read it here, hold and launch up to 3 objects. Energy now recovers while holding launch objects.
Yeah, that's like the big thing more than honestly just being able to throw a whole bunch of stuff compared to before. Like that's like the big thing. It'll just recharge. They did that with another one too.
Yeah, the shield got the shield rush ability.
Yeah, and like I think the last one does a similar thing of like while you have your shield.
Yeah, energy will recover while shield is active. I don't know if they added that in the first DLC. They might have, but I know they added shield rush in the first DLC.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I like that. I like that they like continue to like upgrade her abilities.
Yeah, it was cool. This multi-launch ability, if you've not gotten the chance to see it, is very cool. I remember, so when I got into the DLC, I was like, okay, let's see where we go from here in this kind of very creepy opening, and then you see the this.
Yeah,
and it's about to get real. So we're gonna take a seat, take a step back. Everybody relax, and prepare to get weird.
Do we know each other? I feel this feels familiar. I can't seem to. I've forgotten it. I'm sorry. My name is Alan Wake. Who are you? Who are you? Do I know you?
I'm your friend Tom. Tom Zane. There's nothing to worry about.
Tom. The poet. The diver. You look different.
That was just a role, a character. The protagonist I played in my old film. I'm a filmmaker. An auteur like yourself. Working on this together, remember? It's an artistic collaboration. You need a drink.
Endless darkness. Nothing holds still.
We're very close now. You've been writing. Found a way to escape. It'll work this time.
Writing?
You found a way.
No. I don't. Wait. There's something. It's my double. He's out there. I've seen it.
Yeah. Nothing to worry about. I'm dealing with it. It's fine, my friend. Let me handle him.
You've met him? What the hell?
Now, come on. You misunderstand me.
So dense.
Yeah, so much stuff going on.
There's so much going on in that. Like,
That was Allie.
it's so long, right? Like,
In that AWE case I read about.
Yeah, and it's
What's he doing here?
I mean it's hard to say because like that's like a scene that like as people who have played Alan Wake, it's like holy F.
yeah.
And like so much stuff going on, but to like other people who may be just like tuning into this, like I don't know if we should give a whole lot of context, right? It's hard to say because it's like
There's too much going on, I think, to explain
there's-
everything.
Yeah, there's too much going on because like a lot of it is tied to like things that happened in the Alan Wake, and then things that are like have the current state of things now that we're seeing it here in Control.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
what I do appreciate is like, you know, the audience can come at it from the like Jesse's standpoint if they hadn't played Alan Wake, and if you read all the documents in this game, you get some sense of like, okay, there was a threshold, there was some, he was in some evil place,
some crazy event happened,
and he disappeared, right? Like
he was involved and then disappeared.
Yeah, so him being behind that door, I think they make it very clear the conclusion you're supposed to draw, even if you hadn't played Alan Wake. But if you had, and all that kind of clicked together, I think it's even crazier, and it's like, what is the rest of everything going on in that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like even like there's cool like little bits that could be linked to Control, like the little shot of Darland in the TV in Night Springs. Like what the hell does that mean? You know?
Yeah. What does that do, and what is going on there?
Yeah, is he in Night Springs? What is like, because like in Alan Wake American Nightmare, Night Springs is a place that you are at in that, so I don't know. But I also thought, like, watching that again, it does make a lot of sense seeing how much work went into that, of like, they probably didn't just do this for this game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're clearly.
Yeah, like, this is a lot of work for just a DLC for a game that came out last year. I think this is probably, they're doing more with this than we know.
Yeah, and I think this is just like, this feels more like a teaser of what's to come, more than it is like this like big thing in Control, I guess. I think that makes sense. Like, I like, not to like shortcut it, but it's exciting. But I think that's like, I think again, like it's that difficult line of like, I think if you want to get into this, I'm just gonna say like you probably should go play like the other games that are now involved in this. Like they're kind of like, you kind of can't get around that anymore, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I would say like go play Alan Wake. If you like, I would say specifically like if you played Control even before the DLC came out, and like that, you know, like where it's going is now also intertwined with Alan Wake from.
Yeah, and I think Alan Wake actually holds up pretty well, I'm gonna be honest.
But yeah, it's totally fine.
So to show off this this launch power real quick, you can see these like little L2 prompts pop up, so I can just hit L2 to pop and grab another one, and then pop and grab a third, and then you just chuck them all.
Throw them all.
And you'll like throw them in somewhat of an order. So.
Oh, that's good.
But it's very good.
But yeah, you know, they're trying to clearly build like a bigger universe.
Yeah,
and now they've intertwined these games, so I'd say like, if you liked one and want to see where they're going, this is like a good point to at least see the start of it, and then, you know, I would play those other games to like more familiarize yourself with it if you're into it.
Yeah, and even just like that of like using the light to destroy the darkness, which is straight pulled from Alan Wake, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's cool, and I think if you play this and you're like, okay, Alan Wake seems really cool and very weird, I wonder what it's all about, like, you can go back and you'll have a better understanding of it before you go into it, because Control kind of sets you up for it too. Yeah. Which is really cool. It's just like I was hoping that there would be some stuff like that linked the kind of mechanics of those games together. I didn't necessarily expect them to have like the light beams on enemies directly.
Yeah.
But they kind of give you that, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of, yeah, like, because I kind of thought they were going to do something with that, like, you know, because like a large part of Alan Wake is like you're basically fighting darkness creatures, or things taken over by this darkness, and then, you know, essentially the loop of the gameplay is like, as Alan Wake, you are it's like a third-person shooter, and you're using a flashlight to basically kind of shine a light on these dark and imbued people most of the time, and then you can shoot them. So it's kind of expecting something like that in this, like you were to get like a gun upgrade that like put like a flashlight on her weapon.
Yeah, I thought that might happen, but I also wondered like if that was too much of a fundamental change to like control and like the kind of austere and the lighting and the setting and everything. So them not doing it made sense also.
Yeah, they've kind of made its own thing.
But what I like is they make all these kind of very fresh takes on old school Alan Wake puzzles, because I also replayed Alan Wake very recently. And a lot of the kind of light puzzles you have in this game are very reminiscent of a lot of ones in that game in a good way. They seem like more thoughtful and evolved because Jesse doesn't have a flashlight, so you kind of have to shift around and use other sources of light.
Yeah, intertwined with like Jesse's abilities.
Yeah,
so it's cool.
And it all works.
I don't like these guys that are also.
Oh yeah, these guys are rough.
Yep.
As you can immediately tell.
Because they just went like, hey, let's take the worst enemy type, the dudes who just like can teleport away from your attacks, and then give them guns. So it's like it's essentially what those guys are. Because like there was already flying enemies that were kind of tough that you could kind of like trick around them to like hit.
Yeah, the flying telepathic enemies.
Yeah.
They're a nightmare as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can be managed because you can throw stuff at them to throw off their attacks. These guys just dodge around and suck.
Yeah, because they can just be like, I just have a gun.
It's cool though. I like I like that they also bring some of the new enemy types from the other DLC Foundation. They don't bring back the edge, like the sharpened, which are the guys with axes. But they do bring in the weird laser shooting.
Yeah, the
stealth monsters.
Yeah.
I forget what they're called.
Yeah, I forget what they're called too. Like just either like the distorted or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, the distorted sounds right.
Yeah.
But that's when stuff like that triple charge comes in handy, because if you can hit them with 2 hits, they're done.
Yeah, that. I can see that for sure. Yeah, no, just I will say that's like the cool thing about the one cool thing about these enemies is like the one things that are cool about these DLCs are like the kind of like take and give, I guess you could say is like you do have to beat phase control to like get into them, but I think like ultimately it's worth it because you then have you have the full powers that Jesse has.
Yeah,
You kind of just have moments like you were having where you're like flying around this room and the enemies are flying around with you and you're just like battling them in the air, but essentially, and like having like aerial gunfights and stuff. And like if they made the DLC where like you can really have all her powers, like it just wouldn't. I think they just wouldn't have worked as well.
Yeah, I think if you were like struggling with some of the side content too, like having the DLC as just more foundation to go off of, not excuse the pun, you can like maybe have a much easier time with a lot of the side missions. Plus they've patched it and made it a lot more solid in some areas.
Yeah, they have fixed some stuff, and they added an assist mode in this, which I didn't.
Yeah, with this patch.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, with this DLC, and I'm pretty sure that's all for like you don't need the DLC necessarily to.
Yeah, it's just a patch for everybody. So,
and that adds some like I haven't tried it myself, but like from what I saw, it's pretty much like a Celeste level of like you can give yourself infinite ammo or make yourself unkillable, like that level of like assistance.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, so
if you were struggling, this is definitely the time to play. I think right after here is a very good place to end it.
Yeah. We're to get to like I would say like the other big aspect of the DLC.
Yeah, which is cool, and they bring in like a side character from Alan Wake in a substantial way, which I didn't expect. And it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And also like again an enemy type from Alan Wake in a way, further changed by the hiss.
Yep.
And this is just pure nightmare fuel.
Yeah, we're all messed up. There's a lot of very tense moments.
So you don't like the light?
Yeah.
Let's say with this dark creature.
Yes. It's cool. I'm a really big fan of what they did here. I hope more people check it out and play it. And if you're on the fence, like you get like so much of that Alan Wake love and attention. Like if that's the kind of thing you were specifically looking for, like those hotline calls translate to like basically manuscript pages, but much longer and I think more in depth and more crazy if you are way into that stuff. And I think if you're into Control, everything about this will make you want to know fundamentally more about Alan Wake, and if you haven't yet, you'll bite the bullet and go play it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, 100%. They pretty much interweaved them both with this DLC.
You can't like one without liking the other at this point, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And like they're both worth playing. They're both good, and the next they set up for another thing in this DLC, I guess is what we'll leave it at. So like regardless of it, if you're interested in either of them, that like you just know that like that's where it's going. So I would just recommend just at least playing them if you can, or reading up or watching YouTube videos or doing whatever. It's where they're both worth checking out.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for joining me, Mike. I'm always ecstatic to play Control.
Me too. Great video.
Thank you all for watching. Great video game.
Mm-hmm.
One might even say game of the year.
Yeah.
And I look forward to whatever Remedy does next. And don't forget to check out our other viewpoints and other stuff. And look forward to more IP stuff. And be good to each other. We love you. Goodbye.
Bye.